So we're a little behind schedule, I guess, but doing our best. Okay, so let's call this thing to order and introduce ourselves. I am Deva Edelman. I am your Community Planning Group chairperson and chairperson of the subcommittee here, I suppose. Although this has become more of a group of people than it is. Well, when we have subcommittees, we're allowed to have members of the community, and I don't know. That seems to be the way these meetings have become run. But we should introduce other CMR board members who are with us here. So I see John Schroeder. John, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm John Schroeder. I'm a resident of Carmel Mountain Ranch for 17 years.
Thank you. I see Michelle Mullen.
Michelle Mullen, homeowner.
Hi, Michelle. I see John Chu.
John Chu, homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Nice. Kurt.
Kurt Carlson, homeowner for a very long time.
And let's see, Rich.
Hi, Rich Krejci, homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
All right, thank you. I think if I'm missing any board members, somebody let me know, but those are all of us that I saw. And then of course we have a total of 19 participants here. But what we're really here to do tonight is to check in with John Chu and see where we're at with the spreadsheet. I've been watching it grow. And John, you want to update us on what's happening?
Sure. We have, I guess, let's see here, about 50 comments, maybe 48 or something like that. And Kurt reviewed some of his, and some of his are duplicated, so I removed those, or at least noted they're removed. And I haven't seen anyone else respond, but there are open questions that I have based upon some of the comments written. I don't know how you want to work it. You want to just go through these that I've identified I have issues with?
Issues in that?
In the comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I share my screen here?
Oh yeah, let me host you, or make you a host. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so I'll just go down these. I'm not going to go ones that I've identified as okay. It'll probably take too long. The first two address affordable housing for sale. I don't think there's any requirement in the city, so I don't think the ER is going to say anything. So that's where it is.
John, excuse me for a moment. Can I ask a question? What do the colors mean, the red and the yellow?
Oh, those are my own. Those are where I know where there's issues with.
Okay.
Did I change this color? This one. Did you already write one here? Okay, this one I think is okay. Sorry, so this one is.
Yeah, I did a lot of I did a lot of the corrections that you had asked about. Did some rewording on mine.
Oh, this is the one. So you have a low density one. Is it any different from the one you just wrote, these two? Or are these effectively the same?
I guess you could say they're based on different points. One's talking a little bit more about the alternatives. The other one's talking about units 5 and 6, because they're two distinct points. And that you got to add in that one where it says units 5 and 6. It doesn't say 5. It just says units and 6. on column G, item, row 7.
Right. I think I get what you're saying. So this is 5 and 6 in particular. This is just reducing overall density.
And that's the all densities for everything.
Okay. I think I'm okay with that.
You know, on row 8, we've got investigate a potential option of 250 or 300 total. You know, in our position letter in July, we stated that 200 to 250 maximum was what
Yeah,
our community planning group would, you know, accept.
yeah, we should be consistent. You're right.
Okay, well, I'll let Kurt, you and John can figure out the right wording for that and update that later to me. In general, I'm okay with it. Only thing I wrote here was that there's a policy in here that specifically says do not build single family homes, but I don't think that's anything we can control.
That's their proposed policy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the city's policy, right? Not the, this one that you guys had mentioned that you want me to take out about, basically I just took the 800 units that they proposed and just reallocated them to units 5 and 6 and reduced to other places. So I'll take that and put my own, that's fine. So on 13 here about wildfire that Rich wrote, there isn't anything specific that needs to be addressed in ER. I mean, if you look, I think these two are the same, right? So the problem is junipers is entirely in a very high fire severity zone. And there is no requirement to reduce that zone.
Why?
There's no requirement. There's no city requirement to do it.
But see, why I added that there is that their impact is saying that there's no increased, you know, this doesn't increase any fire risk, but it's ridiculous because the fire risk is already the maximum it could be. I understand. I get what you're saying that, yeah, it may not be required, but it's part of my point see, my section was specifically on wildfire evacuations, and we can see that there's nothing in, and so all of my answers just look at it in that context.
Okay.
So I'm saying that we're getting more population and we're not getting any reduction of fire threat whatsoever. And so therefore and then also you left it out on here, but I had some facts about wildfires in California and increasing. And so all of these led to the conclusion that we're going to have large nothing's reducing, and
I did include your statement about traffic here
probably
previous.
don't have to, but the EIR response, it said that I can ask them or request anything I wanted to of them. So I don't know. So anyway, that's just my defense.
Okay.
You
So
can
here's
edit
what
as
I think I need from you, Rich, is that, so taking in context that there's this whole fire study, right, that they did in Appendix D. If you can rewrite this as something the EIR needs to do, I'm trying to, like, if you look at every statement here, I basically say EIR should do this. If you can restate your thoughts into that type of question, or actually a statement, I can probably include it in here.
So each of the paragraphs should have had a statement on it that I had in there, except for the first ones. I'm not sure which one didn't have a statement. I made sure that when I submitted the stuff, each of my paragraphs, it had a section that I included either a statement or a request or something like that in there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just reading, you know, okay, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that I don't think we can state that the requirement to reduce the hazard zone. There's no requirement in the city. So if you say the mitigation is insufficient, that might be an argument.
Yeah.
You know, if, you know, their brush management might not be sufficient, that might be an argument. If you can rewrite it in that kind of sense, that'd probably be something we can include. gonna move on here. We talked about traffic, so I think that is valid. So I get that. I think we have a duplicate here between layering use. I think these two address the same thing. So on 18, I think you meant to say it should be the project is detrimental to and reduce the improvement.
What was the one again? Distinct versus.
EIR needs to update to show how eliminating these elements is an improvement to the quality of neighborhood. It should say detriment to the quality of neighborhoods, right?
Yes, that works. That works better.
So we're good there.
I'm gonna need
Wait a
it.
minute, I wonder if the rest of that sentence is good. Let's see. The EIR needs to be updated to show how eliminating these elements indicated, these elements is a detriment
Uses.
and, yeah.
And do adhesives.
Yeah, I'll clean it up after. I just want to make sure. Let me note that. I'll clean it up afterwards.
Okay.
What color should I make it? Make it green. Space source. So I think I understand what you're trying to say. The challenge here I see is that if you were to look, if you look at the plans in the EIR, right, it doesn't, I mean, their entire lot that is designed for housing and the ones that are designated quote unquote open space or buffer, I don't believe they have any infrastructure in those open space buffer zones on those developed units. I don't know about the trails, but I can't tell, right? I mean, it doesn't look like there is any development on those those portions of the units. I can show over here, right? So.
I mean, my point, and I probably duplicated it because is that I feel like when going through and the way I understand how they calculate their open space or how they calculate their loss of open space is that they take the floor plate of the actual unit, and that's where they came up with the 53 acres.
So what? I looked at the table that is in the original design plan that New Urban West built, and it's the same table that's in the EIR that identifies every lot and unit within the lot, and they correlate to all this, right? So, I mean, they're clearly not going to be building. I mean, I don't think they're building any infrastructure, housing or vehicle infrastructure in this lot 3 here, for example.
John.
Yeah.
They specifically allow, the only thing that they're guaranteeing is that the buildings, the physical buildings, habitable structures will be restricted to the development lots. But there's definitely going to be infrastructure in terms of parking lots, roads,
Right.
what they call accessory structures.
Yeah,
They could even be garages,
yeah,
you know,
so
that sort of stuff.
But if they're designating as open space, they wouldn't be able to put anything in there, right?
Wrong.
Okay.
no,
They were
very-
given a pass on that.
Yeah, it's very shifty in how they're presenting
Yeah.
the loss of open space versus what they're actually building.
Okay.
Yeah, the only real open space is sort of the 15-foot buffer, but even that's not for sure.
Okay. I think this one is okay. I think we had looked at this.
Yeah, I want them to analyze, how the current safety, security, and privacy of the 650 homes is being done, and making it, now everything's publicly accessible. How is that safe and secure for those homes that are along the golf course?
Yeah, I think you changed it from it wasn't noise specific, so it's fine.
Yeah.
This one. So I'm still not clear, the EIR is looking at the impacts, right? So I get that you're saying that they're looking at developers' way of doing it, but it doesn't, actually point out any flaws other than say that it's a very subjective thing, what you wrote here, right? So there's like the city is going to, or the city is going to say that we looked at it objectively and this is what it is. And that's the response they're going to get you. So if you can make it a little bit, I think it'd be stronger if it's reverted in a way that says, hey, this is deficient, right? All we're saying here is that we don't think you did actual true impacts. And the city is going to say, yeah, we did. So, I mean, that's the challenge here, right?
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to, as I go through, if I see anything that's not really objective, I try to, and that's like here, they talk about New Urban West. It's really irrelevant what New Urban West did here because this is the EIR. Nothing, I mean, so I think we should take things like that out because it's more, it's a kind of opinion, right? The New Urban West say we did the same thing. But anyway, so take a look at that. Next comment here, there's no action in the EIR. So there's nothing that says EIR did anything wrong. So,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I'd still like to keep it in there just to make it known.
I think this one's okay. I think I just included it that there's a couple lines I'm deleting. That just kind of cleans up the text a little bit. And then 26 is from Larry. So you wrote that its noise will exceed and that mitigation is not effective. But they have a whole section on mitigation and they say it's below 75, right? So I did like a 2-minute scan and I saw that, there's a couple questions here. Oh, maybe the traffic noise level 65 is used, but then they say 65 is okay for is not okay for traffic, but 75 is okay for construction. And then there's also a 65 dB requirement for single family housing, which I don't think is addressed here in the noise. So maybe take a look at that again and take a look at that section and those tables.
Okay.
Of interest on the noise thing, back when a couple of times the church over here in the parking lot was extremely noisy. So I looked up the city noise ordinance, and if the zones are different, that is the multifamily unit, if that happens to have a higher dB permitted, then the tolerated amount to come across the border, the transition is a split halfway between the two dB levels.
Yeah, I didn't
So
really,
very strange. Yeah.
I didn't really analyze it. I just kind of looked at the tables and there's a table here that shows like the.
No, I just threw that out.
So they don't have to mitigate for it?
Well, they do have mitigation. They talk
don't-
about mitigation in here. I'm trying to find that table here.
I think we'll have a hard time saying their mitigation doesn't work because it's like, okay, who's the expert? Supposedly.
Well, that's what I said. The only thing I could find was they didn't use a single family. Yeah, I can't find it right now. But single family is supposed to be 65, right? And they didn't use that. They took the multi-use. I'm not going to find it right now, so it's not going to happen.
Hey, how can they say they're doing it effectively when they're increasing the density by, so many more units?
Well, they're saying that the traffic, they did analysis of the traffic, and he said the noise was this at an operational situation. They did analysis of the construction. He said the noise was this, and he said 75 is okay as long as we mitigate it. So that's what they're saying they did in these 3 mitigations they did. So I think we have to be a little stronger here about what they're not doing. Like, I think they're not comparing to a 65 dB for the single family and they're using a multifamily one. but it needs a little more analysis.
I think that it really needs to be looking at, adding walls, the backyards or sound walls along streets where those units face. That should at least be looked at and maybe requested of the EIR to do that. Because,
Yeah, well, they
they
do.
They do that on everywhere when they, for noise mitigation and buffering.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to tell you that they wrote these three mitigations, and he said it was sufficient. So if we think it's not sufficient because they didn't use the right criteria to analyze it, that would drive more mitigation steps, right?
Yeah.
31 here. I think we talked. Oh, so I looked at this and I didn't understand this 27. Is it 27%?
Net reduction of, well, they had, if you look over to the left, they say approximately 111 acres, 111.27. My calculations came out to 111.34.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant by that.
Okay.
And that's where I'm comparing the difference.
So we talked about the open space thing, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Harold's looked at it. This one you said we addressed and we deleted.
Yeah.
I think there was one of these comments you said to delete, and we didn't include. I did want to update one of the policies, so I left it in there. So I want to make sure their policies were updated to being inconsistent. Same thing with this one. So I think we've got a few that address ADA. It's just a matter of picking out which one's the best one, I think. I think I would take Kurt's because his is a little more detailed. And I think his thing that is addressed ADA should be, I'll just merge these together. Everyone's okay with that.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear what this one was actually asking us to do. Because we said they were ADA compliant. And are we asking for a mobility change? So we talked about compliance and making sure that it's wide enough and it's not steep. Are we saying that if they don't do it, the mobility is impacted? So,
well, what's a typical standard? They're saying the trail is circulate throughout the project to provide mobility. I guess equitable, and the trails will be paved. And let's see, I got to remind myself here of this.
So I think we address all that over here in this comment that you already written.
This could be close to another duplication in a way.
So I was reading that as I thinking you were trying to say that these might be dealing with mobility.
There's standards that are not, they really should be, in the design guidelines, but I guess they're not making them wide enough. They don't meet the current, class 1 multi-use trail systems, which is mentioned in the San Diego Bike Master Plan, and I referenced that there.
So if it's different from ADA, we can include that, but it needs to be rewritten.
Yeah, it's more about trail standards.
Okay.
And my opinion is that, we need to get to where we want to be. We got to cost them a little bit more money, and they're not doing things like building walls and making the trails ADA compliant, which would mean that they have to go back and create switchbacks to make some of those trails work. And
yeah, if you can find the bike discussion, it is in the city master plan. Okay.
I think I added that on there, but
I think you okay. So maybe you can just rewrite this a little bit to say the EI should do this, so to do X. I think that would be fine.
I'll look at that.
So this goes to John's comment. I couldn't figure out what you needed here.
What Well, your comment says that perhaps this is redundant with another comment that is needed from the EIR.
Yeah, I think there's a few things in here, but I couldn't figure out what wasn't already addressed or what is, I mean, there's a lot of things that are like more statements or just stating or repeating what's already in the EIR.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine if you take this out, if you feel it's redundant, that's
Okay.
perfectly okay.
There was a section that I broke out from yours
Okay.
and moved it down here, which had to deal with
Okay,
character and like aesthetics, right?
and then you're adding that red line in there then, that
Yeah.
you're adding that sentence in red, okay,
I try to end all of them with something like that so that
okay.
clear they need to do something, not just a random comment. They can say, no, nothing, we don't need to do anything here.
Okay, all right, so John, then you're taking my first comment out and then leaving the second one in, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then I just quickly added some things this afternoon about libraries and traffic. So, and I sent those out.
Who owes us writing?
I don't think it needs to say a lot. You know, we have got 40 something comments. They're going to have to respond to each one, just like they've done in previous ones. I personally feel that there's some major issues that were like, they didn't include projects that should have been included as part of the analysis. And so my feeling is that this should drive a recirculation of the draft EIR.
From us, from the board, quality over quantity, I believe is what we need.
Mhm.
From the board. Anybody that wants to take any of the comments on their own and send an email or write a letter, go for it. It just, it gives them more volume to have to deal with. But I like what's happening here and really, really appreciate all of the effort that has been put in. I don't see I wonder if I put my stuff in the wrong place. I didn't see any of mine.
I didn't see anything from you at all.
Well, I did see yours, Eric. I glanced at it about a half an hour ago. I think you put it in the Google Share document, and you put it under that tab on the right, John. The tab on the right, whatever that one is, that one with the colors.
It isn't much, but it took me a long time to research that. Researching the interior smoothness of water pipes and the fact that they didn't factor that calculation into there. It probably is meaningless, I'm guessing, but.
Make them do the work.
Yeah.
We did the work. Let them do the work.
So this one? So there's just this one comment?
Yeah, that one, and I'll get you a couple more tonight, but
okay.
So far that one.
Yeah, so I think with some minor updates here that we just talked about, I think we're in pretty decent shape. I think all we just need is a summary letter at the top just saying, hey, this is our position. All the comments are attached in this PDF, or we can just PDF the whole thing. And just say that our summary should be that it needs a recirculation of the draft EIR.
So do you want to write that summary? Should I write it? How do you want to handle that? I
can write something really quick. I'm not going to write a lot. I'm just going to.
No, I don't think that. Again, I think that from us,
I can give you the text, and I can give you. It's probably going to be like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and then you can put the headers and stuff on it.
So you'll have something for me to circulate either late tomorrow or early Wednesday.
Yeah, people can give me comments or their responses to what I wrote them or what we just discussed, right?
Yeah.
So then I can incorporate and then finish it up.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of great stuff from a lot of people. And then you, John, honing down our comments to be as methodical and scientific as possible is good. And then other people in the community are, I see a lot of good stuff coming out. I mean, I've seen, if I start naming people, I know I'm going to leave people out, and Larry Fontaine isn't even on the board yet, and he's already helping, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good energy going through CMR right now, and a lot of good people doing a lot of good work. So it's much appreciated by me for sure, and I know the rest of us.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some big objective things that are clearly they left out. And obviously we have some a little bit more subjective things like, aesthetics and things like that, which are much harder to quantify, but we feel that are an impact, right? So
right.
The question is whether the city sees it the same way.
Right. Well, John, when you look at this cumulatively versus say what was submitted on the junipers, I mean, how does this stack up? Do you think we have done, more, the same?
I think, what I did, I looked at, like, for example, I looked at their comment about traffic didn't analyze something on the freeway. And I took exactly what the city wrote back, that they looked at the traffic analysis and it wasn't above a number of trips. And well, they never did the analysis on ours. And we are generating, 4 times, maybe not everyone goes to the freeway, but at least 50% of those people go to the freeway. So we should be well above these numbers that the city provided.
Yeah.
They cited as a response to Delano that they didn't include. And there's clearly projects they didn't include in their analysis either in the EIR or the Appendix C LMT, which should be included. I mean, those projects are approved and in development currently. So those by themselves should drive a draft EIR recirculation.
You don't think they'll just say that, well, that's not within the boundary of our project limits and therefore not, or
well, Millennium PQ should be. It's right even closer to us than Junipers.
Well,
and other project, Pacific Village, that's we're closer to us than either of those. And there's 300 units. So that would generate 980 trips, daily trips.
Yeah, it's going to back up all the way past Scripps Ranch.
So, I mean, I don't know how they could get away of not doing it. They would be a pretty substantial, if they don't do a draft EIR again, then it's a pretty substantial change to the final. And then the whole TPA thing is just, I said it's ridiculous. I mean, it's unit 16 can't possibly be part of the TPA. It's on the other side of the entire community.
Oh, I know.
Is anybody aware of any ruling that's been made on that? I mean, everyone's just kind of using that as an excuse. Everyone uses the same excuse that, 3 parcels fall within the TPA, therefore they all do, but
there's no, I looked at the requirement. There is no, it just says, it doesn't define what property is, right? So they say if any portion exists within that community, right? Is it part of, actually, it's one of my first ones here.
There's actually a city ordinance about it.
Yeah, there's a city ordinance
that establishes that rule. It's not just an ad hoc policy by the planning department.
The problem is that it wasn't designed to handle.
Well, no, they didn't. This is definitely not something what do they call it? A limitation of imagination or whatever.
I wrote it is misappropriate. It's a gross misappropriation ordinance, and that it is technically and logically incorrect to say it 1.5 miles away is part of the TPA. I mean, it says is intended for contiguous. It doesn't say contiguous properties, but it should be.
Well, they're separate legal parcels, and the only thing they have in common is they're owned by the same person, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so you can look up this ordinance 215057, and it basically says anything that lies within or has a portion, either entirely or a portion within the TPA. But I feel that's gonna be more political, right? Unless someone sues them. So that's something maybe our city councilman can look at.
I can tell you the county supervisor's office is very concerned about how this affects the county's climate action plan. I had a conversation with her rep the other day, and it seems like we have an ally there. I don't know how much of this is just new people in office wanting to make everyone feel good, but
Yeah. So, I think, one of the things I probably didn't emphasize enough is this. I think Harold's doing the same thing, is this environmentally superior alternative where we have, the higher density units in a town center, right? And then we keep like 5 and 6 to the TPA. And then you would have to address the park deficiency of 20 acres so community, like by itself right now, before any development, we're already 19 acres deficient. And this project actually adds to that number. And so, they could just turn this golf course into more parks, and then put more units along, Carmel Mountain Road and the TPA, and be environmentally superior because it will lower the VMT and the LMT. So the alternatives wasn't even done properly. So, those things should be definitely addressed by the city.
Probably just made those selections. Yeah, I've never liked the cluster idea. I mean, that's what's killing a lot of certain units more than others. And then, they're just trying to minimize their costs, minimize their grading infrastructure, and, just try to power it through without any community input, because the climate's right for them to be able to do that.
Yeah, you'll probably get away with it.
And we can't let them get away with it. We absolutely cannot let them get away with that. This is just ridiculous. This project, as we've all been saying before, this project is not right for our community. It's going to kill our community. It's going to devastate it. And the more writing and expression of anger and frustration and questioning everything, we have to do that.
So I think, Eric, if people just send me I think I sent this out earlier, right? I'll resend this copy because it has some cleanup, and then anything that's colored needs to be addressed or rewritten. If you can just send me that, and I'll send out the final copy before Wednesday.
okay, all right. Is there any public comment? Anybody? Comment, question? Larry, go ahead.
I got it. Yeah. So this afternoon, I was going through the pages and pages of the CEQA, and I think I sent you and Troy out a copy of this, and it talks about the recirculation of an EIR prior to certification. And I'll just read it. It says a lead agency is required to recirculate an EIR when significant new information is added to the EIR after public notice is given of the availability of the draft EIR for public review. And the section that I was looking at is they talk about section 3, a feasible project alternative or mitigation measure considerably different from others previously analyzed would clearly lessen the environmental impact of the project, but the project's proponents declined to adopt it. Now, what I had sent out to you and Troy is, Troy initially had proposed the vineyard, and nobody would listen to that. So I think that there's a serious flaw in the EIR that they didn't address that. And I don't know whether, that should go in this spreadsheet or, whether I should put it in my letter. It seems like you might get more bang for your buck out of your spreadsheet. So
I think the challenge with that is that it's clearly stated in this ER's objective to fund housing, to balance the housing need of the city, as well as keep the open space and community character and all these other things that they've written, right? So the problem with the vineyard may be combined with, combined with the fact that you add some units in the TPA and units 5 and 6, some balance, right? So that, okay, we keep units 5 and 6, we have a vineyard, we have some parks, and you build a majority of housing in the community center. That would be a stronger alternative than just saying a vineyard, because it addresses the housing requirement that this ER has thrown in there.
So where do you think it should be done, in the spreadsheet or in the
Do it in
letter
both
that?
places.
Yeah, if you want to write something up, and I can include it. As I said, that you look at these objectives in 3.2, and they talk about housing, right? So it has to address the housing. It has to address all these factors, right?
Okay,
So if you can say,
Also-
well, this plan addresses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through this plan, then, and as a better objective, then it's a better environmentally less impact objective, or alternative, then that would be something that is stronger, right? And just saying we should have vineyard.
okay, I'll send you something and we can kind of go back and forth on it.
Troy, did you have something, Troy? I saw your camera come on and
Yeah, well, I think one of the big
Get to you next,
flaws
Jim.
in the whole issue of the open space is, and I know we've addressed it in our communication, but they are building on 11 of the 18 holes, right? So somehow the 11 of the 18 holes, there isn't, I guess technically there is open space, but, I look at each of those holes, and effectively the open space on each hole is gone, right? Because it's going to be replaced with many, many, many buildings. And they intentionally, use the footprint of the real estate as a way of making it sound like, there's going to be all this open space. But the fact of the matter is that every hole that has development is a reduction in open space. And, I haven't looked, John, in detail at your document here, but I think that might be mentioned once, but I think we could expand upon that idea.
Yeah, I think, well, I think we're just time-wise challenged if we need to do this by Wednesday, right? So it doesn't
Totally
prevent
understand.
anyone
Yeah.
individually from writing about that.
I know I addressed some of that, Troy. I did talk about the comparison and the technique that the developer is using, and not including, the parking lots and the internal driveways and roadways and common space, as part of that development.
Did you add a section on 11 of the 18 holes? Is that in there?
Yeah,
somewhere?
Yeah, he did. Kurt
I
did.
think I did it a couple times, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. The fact of the matter remains that, look, the EIR is an interpretation of the city and of the developer. And this is our opportunity to say this is our interpretation. And if the city ignores that, then at some stage, that creates an opportunity to say that we need to have a judge look at the difference between these two opinions to determine what is correct. So the city doesn't get the final say in just saying, well, never mind. So the more we bring up, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job, by the way, covering very salient points. And John, I totally agree with you. I think, it needs to be redone, right?
Jim, go ahead.
Yes, I agree. I think you guys have done an amazing job. Thank you for the incredible work, Kurt, John, Harold, some of you that have just spent so many hours. I can't imagine deciphering through all of it, those 1,000+ pages. But I did look at a fair amount of it. And, I think that, we're asking the community to write a letter by February you know, you guys have done an incredible job summarizing some 60 points on, narrowed it down to 22 pages. My recommendation is, how do we communicate to the homeowners after tonight? And I mean, the HOA sent out a letter that, you know, asked everybody to write a letter. The CMR United has done the same. We've all posted it and provided all this backup documentation. But I think the average homeowner needs to hear us say, we'd like for you to write a letter. And here are the 5 major points that we're trying to get across out of these 22 pages. I mean, what are they? The home types and the number of homes, number 1. Are they traffic and safety? Number 2, are they, you know, this doesn't really give us affordable housing? Number 3, I mean, what are the 3 or 4 points that each of us should make sure we include in a letter to get our point across? Because we're not going to give, every person is not going to give them 22 pages of specifics, if that makes sense.
Jim, I can address that to some degree. I mean, you know, the homeowners need to take 1 or 2 of those items, whatever they have passion for, and write about them.
Right.
And they should be fact-based. The reason that we have so many is, and that we've identified that these are real issues, is not, you know, to have every homeowner write, you know, pages and pages.
Right.
So what's important is quality, which I think this document is great quality, but it's also quantity. So we need to flood the city with quantity. And I think that that's what CMR United is asking everybody to do. I think that's the same thing the HOA is asking everybody to do, but it can't be a form letter, right? So the form letters won't work. That's very, very clear. So the danger of boiling it down to 5 points is that all of a sudden it looks form letter and it looks complaint, and then you don't get your comments addressed. So, so that's, you know, sort of the way. And I can tell you that the HOA did contact me, and they asked if I'd be willing to share the document we prepared as a reference, because they were getting a lot of the same questions, and I said that would be perfectly fine to share that. You know,
Okay.
as I say, you know, pick on anything you want, whatever you have
Yeah.
passion for, and it doesn't have to be a lengthy communication. And a lot of these I'm getting copied on, and we're getting, a lot of them are happening. I mean, the message is getting out there. You know, I had probably 10 letters I got copied on today, and that's just letters I'm copied on. That doesn't include the HOA and so forth. So we're starting to gain some momentum, and the HOA is, you know, it looks like doing a daily countdown. We put out another announcement today, and people are responding, and they're angry, and they should be. And it's you know, my viewpoint is that it's good. So everybody just everybody on this, that's on this call, that's 19 more letters,
Right.
that, you know, we all need to write.
So I think the question is whether, from Eric's standpoint, or actually our group standpoint, whether we want to send that to our HOA and they want to see either the whole thing or a subset as an example, right? Is that what we're
Yeah,
driving
I
to?
would agree that you want to share that. I mean, if you're
Oh, yeah.
willing to, with the
Absolutely.
HOA, because it gives people more material.
There's
Absolutely.
no time right now that people are going to need reference material. There's just no time.
Well, as soon as we approve our document on Wednesday, it's public information, so it
Yeah.
can get circulated as widely as.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the
Is
other
it
part of my
Alan?
question is, I mean, out of this, when you go to present it on behalf of the community council and or the HOA does, I mean, they're, you know, you're going to provide these 22 pages in backup, but is there hope of 3 or 4 or 5 things that we're gonna get out of this? And don't you think we should identify those? I guess is what I'm saying. Shouldn't we say the purpose we're doing this is we'd like your consideration for this, and this?
Well, what's going to happen though is that they're going to, if they see the same issues in the ER, they're just going to say, refer to our response and this person's comment on page RTC 55, right? So,
Right.
I mean, if you look at what happened in Juniper's, they did what in mine, right? They said, refer to the Delano comments. We answered it already. So
Okay.
yeah, I think we should, you know, what Troy is saying, we should provide all the responses from each person individually. you know, as long as people write good comments, they're going to have to address them.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you again for all your work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other public comment at this time?
I guess I have one, and that is that one of the things that I think is completely missing from their analysis is the elevation change, the topography of our parcels. And so I'm going to write something about that, but you know, maybe I need to put something into your letter also. I don't know.
I did add something in there about that, Harold.
Oh, you did good. Okay.
Yeah. So if you go through the spreadsheet, you'll see it.
Okay.
There's in Appendix O, the water study talks a lot about the topography, not in the context that you know of.
Yeah, I'm thinking in a walkability context.
Yeah.
I think it's 273 feet. But you know, from when I look at the grading plans.
Yeah.
And
I
that
mean, the
brings-
real challenge is to translate that into something that affects, you know, mobility, right? To say that, okay,
Yeah.
this really affects that your numbers are inaccurate or your assumptions are invalid, then the mobility has to be redone again.
Eric, I had a question in regards to the recent drawings that the planner Jeff sent to us. It was, you know, from new, it was like, I guess, an upgrade or update of all the drawings, the tentative map, improvement plans, and the design guidelines.
Yeah.
Is it worth redlining anything on that and turning that in with the EIR, or is that something that we do later, or we can do later?
I think if it's not in the EIR, then it's not in our submission that's going in before the 8th, but we can certainly address those things going forward. You know, any other, you know, when we give, I mean, we can either address it when we provide the group's recommendation on the project, or somewhere in between when this gets submitted and when we give our final recommendation.
I don't know how much, I started redlining a couple of sheets, but it's just so much. I am, you know, it is very overwhelming, and, you know, a lot of things like the extra showing the planting on the landscape plans is missing for the buffers. You know, they're only showing 50-foot buffers, but they're not even showing any landscape on. And then there's areas where the grades, they're not showing a separation of grades. And I know it's really kind of one of the things they're trying to change in their amending of the Carmel Mountain Ranch Community Plan. You know, like for example, on Unit 9, you know, they're just doing it flat, straight across with all the different homes. They're not dropping it down 20, 30 feet with a slope to create that distinct defensive neighborhood concept that has been a part of Carmel Mountain Ranch and regular standard design in the industry for years. And they're changing all that, you know, with their policies, and they're changing their differences for their new guidelines. And, you know, and that was one of the things I brought up, because those marked up guidelines were not in the EIR. And either was our position letter, and either was any meeting minutes or notes, any referrals to any of that. So I made a comment about that, but I don't know if it's gonna, you know.
Yeah. I think their response is going to be that it doesn't have to be. I mean, the EIR, of course, it was written by the developers, but it's you know, they just address the things that the city requires them to address. So yeah, I don't think there's anything we can't address it in this forum. I don't think.
Yeah, it's more for the planning commission and the city council versus something the EIR would really look into, because there's really nothing specific in our position letter that addresses anything in the EIR.
We could submit something like that, though, after the EIR to the planning commission, or to Jeff, or
Yeah.
development services, in hopes of getting that to planning commission and city council.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so we got to get through this, get this submitted, and then we got to get through the election thing, which is not, it's off topic for tonight, but I've got Kurt, you volunteered, right, to help me with,
Yeah,
okay, and you're not up for election. I need one other board member who's not up for election, or a community member to help Kurt with the March election. And I've got, so far, 2 board members have told me they're not continuing, and up until now, only 1 new candidate. So we're going to be minus at least 1 at this point. So I will put that word out on the street again this week. But if anybody wants a seat on the board, we're going to have some empty ones.
come on, people.
It's a lot of fun.
All right, works easy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. So I've got some more reading to do on the water section, and looks like a few of us have some editing to do. So I guess if there's nothing else, we'll break and circulate what we've. Oh, Harold,
One last comment, Kurt.
Karen.
You were, yeah, I'm sorry. When
ahead,
Kurt was wondering if we put more input in, I think every letter that we send in to like Jeff or any of the planning board or planning committee, planning staff, any letters gets included in the bundle that goes to the planning commission.
That's right.
It gets stuffed at the end, but at least it gets there.
well, if you look at even in
And
the
that-
final
that-
ER, they have to include
Yeah.
everything in the final ER.
Yeah.
Karen, did you have something?
Yeah, I saw Claudia had a question about if she should notate like the section number when she writes her letter,
If at
And I
all
didn't
possible,
see-
yeah.
if it possible. Okay.
I mean,
All
right,
right.
John?
I didn't want to include that because I want to make sure they didn't say it was just, oh, we looked at this section, but we didn't look at these other sections that had something relevant to it. So I just saw the topic. I just include the topic area and the issue in the comment.
I think the question is regarding when a homeowner's writing a letter, should they reference the section that they're concerned about?
If they can always do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going more in detail. I was just debating on whether I should include it or not, and I decided not to include section numbers or page numbers and just the topic area. So they would have to look at multiple areas to address them.
Understood.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
That was for Claudia?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Alan sent around that, or I guess Eric did, but there was that how to respond to an EIR that was put out there. There is some information out there, but it's more reading.
Yeah, right. That slide deck that I got, it was sent to me, and then I circulated it to everyone else. So if anyone in the community has a question about their personal response, refer to that CEQA slide deck. And if you need it, just email me or text me or, Facebook or however you want to smoke signal me, and I'll get it to you.
On the personal responses, that one, how to write, it was really nice. It was saying, you can put your personal experiences in the neighborhood. You can add all this. You don't need direct proof. As a matter of fact, the burden of proof is on them, not you. So if you can back things up, it's great, but it's not needed. You can put your own personal experience in the neighborhood and say what you think it's not addressing, and it's up to them to prove that they're addressing that, not you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think people's personal letters should be as good as they can possibly be. And I think at the same time, should say whatever that individual wants to say. All right, so if there's nothing else, we'll retreat to our corners and keep working.
It's good.
Thank you for everybody's hard work. Thank you, John, and everyone else for all your time.
Thanks, you're welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so with that, I will go ahead and adjourn, and this will be up on YouTube, and it's out there on that on the Facebook page as well. So we're adjourned at